Today we're going to kind of be starting on some little fundamental stuff, why having Housecall Pro and QuickBooks together is very important. This is going to be kind of a long running series. We've already planned out about 3 months of it, and we're working on more months as we go. So I'm sure this will be a long running thing here, and we're going to be constantly going through more complicated things and complicated issues as it comes to specifics within Housecall Pro and QuickBooks. But it's best to start with some basics and then we build up from there. So today we're going to start with the most basic thing is how Housecall Pro can benefit your QuickBooks and vice versa with how QuickBooks can benefit your Housecall Pro. So for those of y'all that don't know me, my name is James Griner. I am a certified partner with Housecall Pro, and I am the owner and manager of Waterford Business Solutions. I am an advanced certified pro advisor with QuickBooks Online in their elite tier of pro advisors. That means that I service at least 100 different people in their books. So I deal with a lot of different things, and on a daily basis or more so monthly basis, I probably talk with somewhere between 100 to 150 different home service companies, and about 70 to 80 of those deal specifically with Housecall Pro. So I keep very up to date with how Housecall Pro integrates with QuickBooks and how all of that stuff works so that we can provide the best information for you there. So going through everything, this week's meeting, we're going to be talking about kind of an overview of what the series is going to be, going through kind of some introductions like we've already done a little bit. And then we're going to hit some key topics here of why HCP makes QuickBooks Online better and vice versa, why QuickBooks Online makes HCP better. And then what information each program can provide you. And then we're also going to talk about how you can utilize both systems together and give some examples, some workflows, stuff like that to help you understand the processes here. So we've already kind of gone over what the masterclass series is. It's going to be a weekly kind of a 30-minute midday if you're on the East Coast like me, or early morning if you're like Lily out in California, where we kind of just go over some different things. This week is going to be the integration and everything. Next week, we're going to be looking more into some basic stuff with when you do this in Housecall, what happens in QuickBooks. We're going to spend about 2 weeks on that because there's just so much there. But then we're going to start diving into some more specific topics. We're going to be talking about the bank feed in QuickBooks, the bank deposits in Housecall Pro and how those work, refunds in Housecall Pro and how to record them, everything like that. But we're also going to get into some more nitty-gritty topics. I know towards December and in January, we're going to be talking about taxes, everyone's favorite subject. So we're definitely going to try to have some fun there and make these very educational for you, but also make it fun for you guys and not just a bunch of me droning on about stuff, because I can easily do that. So as I've said, we're going to kind of start from the basics and build up from there into more complicated, more advanced issues over the course. We're going to start with simple whys and hows and everything like that. And we're always going to have some Q&A times during each session that we do. It'll probably be 10 to 15 minutes at the end, depending on how much content we have for the week. And we will try to answer as many questions as we can during that Q&A session. But another thing that we're planning on doing is on a different day each week, we're going to have an office hours time, which we'll be talking about later on today at the end of this meeting to figure out when y'all think that would work best for you guys. And we can go ahead and set that up. So all that's going to be for is Q&A time, ask questions, get answers, that type of thing. And we're going to be here to help you there. So a quick introduction to me. I have been working with home service businesses since 2009. I got into everything with my uncles. I had 3 different uncles. one who owned an HVAC company, one who owned a landscaping company, and one who owned a soft wash and pressure washing company. And so when I was a kid, I would go out on the weekends after school, work with them over the summer and do everything like that. But I also got into, during the school year, helping out in the office with scheduling, maintaining everything, keeping the books up to date. And that's how I got into everything there. After I got out of college and was out working, I noticed that a lot of accountants out there don't focus on the home service business and provide industry insights and or technical solutions for customers. So I decided to go out on my own and provide technically advanced, so technology-based bookkeeping, not just, oh, we'll do the books and file the taxes for you. Technology-based, where we're going to provide actual insights, monthly insights, weekly insights, business metrics, stuff like that, which is super important for businesses. As I've already said, I'm an advanced certified pro advisor, and I keep my certifications current in a ton of different programs. Housecall Pro is a major one that I use, but I'm also certified in Notify, Service Titan, Jobber, SOS Inventory, Receipt Bank, HubDoc. And this is just a small list of everything that I deal with. So I'm constantly doing training. Everyone on my staff is doing the exact same thing. We are constantly doing several hours of continuing education for each person every single month to keep us up to date, and also working with industry leaders to determine the newest and best features out there. With Waterford, I ended up finding it back in 2017 with the goal of providing quality service to specifically home service professionals to provide you with industry insights. All of our staff members go through a very rigorous training process and vetting process so that we can make sure that we're providing you the best service that we can. And we help you not just with accounting, bookkeeping, and taxes, but also business planning, communication, software, marketing, et cetera, et cetera. So guys, that is a quick overview of myself. And now we're going to start to get into the fun stuff of why we are here today. So the first topic that I want to cover is why you should add Housecall Pro to your QuickBooks. Now, most of you guys on here right now probably already have Housecall Pro. Some of you may have QuickBooks, some of you may not. Some of you may still be considering getting Housecall Pro, but this is going to go over why having Housecall Pro added to QuickBooks is very beneficial. QuickBooks Online is a lovely ecosystem. It's designed as an open-faced ecosystem to allow third-party applications to interact with it, to provide better features that QuickBooks is not going to do. QuickBooks learned with desktop that they can't make a version of QuickBooks for everybody and give you all the features for everybody. They can't do that. So they came out with Online in order to physically integrate with these third-party applications like Housecall Pro that provide industry-specific tasks. Housecall Pro does a great job of managing your communication with customers. So I'm sure those of you that have been using it for a while noticed the on my way text, the ability to text with the customer through the application, the ability to send invoices, keep track of everything, let your customers know their schedule, that the job is finished, get them images of everybody that is coming to their house. And it makes people feel really comfortable with you because they are familiar with how you work. They know who's going to be there, when you're going to be there, when you've left their house, because pre-COVID, at least, a lot of people didn't spend time at their house all the time. More than likely after COVID, we're going to go back to the exact same thing. So knowing who's going to be there, when they're there, and when they're gone makes people feel a lot more comfortable. And that's not something that QuickBooks offers. It also provides a great source documentation for taxes. So whenever we're talking about taxes, the more documentation we have, the more audit-proof your business is. So if you're just receiving income and we don't have the invoices or the payments or the bank deposits or anything like that, which a lot of people do with QuickBooks, we're missing a lot of information there. And that information is vital to audit proofing your business. So Housecall Pro gives you all that information. The minute you schedule a job, the minute you finish a job, the minute any changes you do to that job, any changes in prices, products and services, anything like that, all show up and are recorded in their audit log. And then we'll push nicely into QuickBooks so that we A, have that information in QuickBooks, but B, we also have the source documentation in Housecall Pro if we ever need to go back and look at it. Housecall Pro has spent a lot of time working with pro advisors like myself to develop their integration to work with QuickBooks Online. They did not go out and just develop it willy-nilly without consulting anyone. They work specifically with QuickBooks, with pro advisors. They're constantly talking with people about what they can do better, what new features, stuff like that, that makes it very, very beneficial for you to get the best app out there. There's a lot of applications out there, and I'm going to pick on ServiceTitan real quick because they're the main offender of this, that they come out there and they develop an integration, but they don't develop that integration with the help of anybody. In ServiceTitan specifically, they develop their integration for desktop, which is not designed to be an open-face system. There are systems out there that allow you to open-face it, but desktop was never designed for that. So they designed a integration with a non-open face system and then adapted that to online. So because of that design and because of that adaptation, instead of designing from scratch, like Housecall Pro did, it does create a lot more issues than you would think and a lot more time to track everything and watch everything going on. So that's one of the things that I love about Housecall is they take their time to make sure that it's integrating, and when issues are found, they jump on it to fix the issue and find a way to make it a lot better. As for non-QuickBooks native features, I kind of already talked about that. The customer communication, the ability to track equipment for customers, the ability to do service plans that auto bill, that auto are legal because your customers can sign them, sales proposals, and a bunch of app integrations that Housecall Pro has is great because QuickBooks is designed for accounting. It's not designed for a contractor to have, here's a list of the HVAC units for this customer. Here's a list of the plumbing fixtures for this customer. Or here's 3 options for sales proposals. That's not what QuickBooks was designed for, and Housecall Pro gives you that information. One of the best things that I like about it is that it separates duties and provides better controls for your company. So whenever we're in accounting, whenever we're in bookkeeping, one thing that you will constantly hear is a separation of duties. And a separation of duties is major because we don't want someone having complete and total control of your business. We want this person to do this person to do this, and have checks and balances in place. With Housecall Pro, your field techs, your office managers, those people, all they can do is schedule jobs, push invoices over, and receive payments. They can't go in and make bank deposits. They can't delete payments. They can't do anything like that. So the minute they receive a payment in Housecall, that payment is in QuickBooks. So if you notice that that payment isn't able to be deposited or you're missing the check or whatever, you now have a record of it, of who received the payment and or who deleted it, so that you can go back and you can track it down and better control your business. And this is major in accounting. Having these checks and balances is a lovely feature and helps to keep your books cleaner because you don't have people who don't understand what's going on in your business in there mucking it up. Now, as a vice versa to that, why should you add QuickBooks to your Housecall Pro? Well, QuickBooks is designed as an accounting program. Housecall Pro is not. Housecall Pro is a scheduling program, a field management program. And so QuickBooks is going to give you the proper and official financial documentations that Housecall Pro will never do. Housecall Pro provides a lot of information, they provide a lot of details, but they don't provide official financial documents to provide to banks, to lenders, to the IRS. So QuickBooks gives that to you. QuickBooks also gives you deeper insights into cost cutting and business growth. Housecall Pro really only manages your income. Yes, you can do some job costing in there. Yes, they're looking at adding some expense related features, but they're not going to give you a nice profit and loss that we can look at and compare month over month to figure out where costs are getting out of hand. QuickBooks is designed for helping you to prepare for your taxes. So it helps you throughout the year to prepare for those taxes so that when the end of the year comes, you don't hand your accountant a box of receipts and say, here you go, file my taxes, because that is super costly. By keeping this up to date on a monthly basis, weekly basis, whatever, it allows you at the end of the year to say, okay, everything's reconciled, everything's good to go. Here's my balance sheet, here's my profit and loss statement, file my taxes, and they're not having to clean anything up. Keeping good records saves you money down the line, and that's what QuickBooks allows you to do by understanding it. QuickBooks also provides actual job costing. Housecall Pro provides estimated job costing. Hey, we spent this much on materials, this much on labor. QuickBooks, every time you record time for someone, it takes that time and applies the exact cost of that time to the job. Every time you have an expense for that job, it applies that exact expense plus taxes there. QuickBooks Online is also the major accounting program out there. So it's a lot easier for a trained accountant to use if they're familiar with QuickBooks Online than Housecall Pro is. And by adding Housecall Pro and QuickBooks together, you're not having to double enter stuff. You're not having to enter invoices in two places and payments in two places. A properly set up account easily flows between each other, and we have all the information right there in front of you, and it makes it easy to run your business without a ton of extra time going on. So what does each program provide you? Well, Housecall Pro provides detailed job information. They provide the details, when it's scheduled, who scheduled it, any time changes, any scheduling changes, when you went to the job, when you started driving there, when you started the job, when you finished with job times, job notes, because your employees or your field technicians are out there putting notes in there, and all of that is in there, while also providing attachments for each customer, images of their HVAC unit or images of their plumbing or images of the issue that they had, so that all of that stuff is there and easy for everyone to access. Whereas QuickBooks provides your official financial records, they provide detailed job costing, they provide payroll management with using ADP, Gusto, even QuickBooks payroll system, depending on what works for you, and makes it very easy to handle your payroll officially. You can also access hundreds of additional apps through QuickBooks. So I'm sure you guys have gone into the My Apps in Housecall Pro and you've seen that lovely list that they have. Well, in QuickBooks, you've got this website called Apps.com. And Apps.com has somewhere around, I think right now they're nearing 400 different apps that are approved apps to integrate. And here on the left-hand side, you'll see some kind of common apps: Receipt Bank, Bill.com, T-Sheets, that let you handle your receipts, track your receipts, keep digital copies, pay your bills, keep track of your employees' time and their location, bulk import things with SASANT. So there's a lot of things that they provide as just kind of generic stuff. But over here on the right-hand side, you'll see all the approved, not even all the approved. I mean, when I just search for service in QuickBooks, there's 75 different things that come up. And so these are all service related apps in QuickBooks. And you'll see Housecall Pro there, Jobber, Service Trade, Workis, Help Desk. There's so many different apps out there that don't just affect the service industry. They help you with better reporting, with backing up your data, with tracking your inventory. So it's really, really a good system out there for you. How to best utilize each program is very, very important. The first thing to remember is that Housecall Pro and QuickBooks have a one-way sync. So what you do in QuickBooks does not show up in Housecall Pro. So if you're receiving payments in there, if you are sending invoices in there, anything like that, they're not going to show up in Housecall. Only stuff done in Housecall will show up in QuickBooks. So remember that if you're doing anything AR related, new customers, new invoices, new payments, anything like that should be done in Housecall. Limit the people in your QuickBooks. Keep it limited to the business owner, your accountant, your bookkeeper, maybe your office manager, but that's about it. Keep it super limited, keep it super small to make everything a little bit easier for you. And then based on the size of your company and the organization of your company will determine your best workflow. So here's a workflow that I generally recommend for kind of a smaller 10-person company where you've got kind of an office manager, an out of office bookkeeper, the owner, and then like 5 or 6 trucks in the field type thing. It's not really a huge company, but enough there. So when someone calls in, your office manager or your receptionist or your answering service, they're going to go ahead and schedule the job. Once it's scheduled, the techs are going to have it on their calendar and they can go out and they can complete the job. They can take payments on the job right there in the field and have all that information right in front of them so that they can take care of it in the field. After that, all those payments are going to go ahead and push into QuickBooks for you. So now the business owner can go into QuickBooks and create a bank deposit in QuickBooks after he's been handed or she's been handed all the cash and check from the field techs. This is verifying that the techs have done all their jobs, they've received all their payments, and you've received the payments from the techs. If you are missing a payment, you need to go back to that tech and talk to them. Hey, where's the payment? You said it was paid. Or hey, you had this job. Why haven't you received payment on it? So you are acting as a controller to make sure that you get all the money in your hand. You create that bank deposit and you go ahead and you take that to the bank and deposit it. Once that's done, the bookkeeper goes in and verifies all that information. They make sure what hit the bank matches what the business owner said the deposit was. They make sure that everything coming over from Housecall Pro into QuickBooks is accurate. All the invoices are in there. Everything like that is done there. Reconcile the books, clean everything up, double check your AR, your AP, anything like that. And then they sit down with you as the business owner and review everything and make sure that you as the business owner understand it. Whether this is on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, they're sitting down with you and making sure that you understand it so that you don't feel in the dark and you don't feel left out and you can make actionable items. So that's kind of an example of a small little workflow for a smaller company. With that being said, that's kind of it for the content that I have today. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions. I know that we're kind of approaching the end. I don't have an issue sticking on here for a little bit longer and answering these questions. So we will try to get through as many as we can today.
James, thank you so much. That presentation was awesome. So I'm going to go ahead. We did receive one question through Facebook,
Okay.
but I'm going to go ahead and promote everyone that's on here that's joined in, 2 panelists. So just hang tight real quick. And we will go from there. It looks like we did receive one question in here just now from Sandra. James, did you get that?
Give me a second. I was looking in Facebook to be honest.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
Sandra, it's absolutely fine for your accountant to sit in with you. We're going to, today was very basic, but the point of that was to be basic. Next week, we're going to be talking about specifically when you add a customer in Housecall, how does it go into QuickBooks? When you finish a job in Housecall, how does it go into QuickBooks? What do you need to do in QuickBooks? Stuff like that. And we're going to spend about 2 weeks talking about that stuff because there is so much there and covering that all in 30 minutes is very difficult. And then we're going to start diving into some more detailed things. We're going to be talking about bank deposits, and when you pay by credit card in Housecall, how the bank deposits go over, how they're used, everything like that. We're going to be talking about refunds for credit cards or refunds in general and how you need to record those to keep everything accurate. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things that will definitely help your accountant understand it. I do know that we will be putting out the topic, Gretchen and Lily, you can talk a little bit more on this, but I think we're going to be putting it out about a week ahead of time. I'll tell you guys that are listening right now, next week is part 1 of when you do this in Housecall, this is what happens in QuickBooks. We're going to spend 2 weeks on that.
Yes. Yeah. So, and you all, I will share with you all of the dates that we have established so far and the topics here in our chat and on the Facebook comments. Just like you said, it is helpful to know in advance so you guys can really plan around that. With the holidays, we are going to be skipping some Thursdays. We will be meeting next Thursday, which is, I believe, the 17th, the 16th or 17th. Oh, wait, the 19th. So we'll be meeting next Thursday, the 19th. We'll be skipping the 26th because that's Thanksgiving. And then we'll be reconvening on the 3rd to do part 2 of James' next topic.
Absolutely. Celia, looking at your question there, what it sounds like is happening without looking at your Housecall Pro or QuickBooks, it looks like when your cleaners finish the job, and for those of y'all that aren't on Facebook, I'll go ahead and tell you what her question was. She was saying that she has an issue in QuickBooks that when a cleaner finishes a job, it pushes the invoice over as paid into QuickBooks Online. And then when she goes to actually receive payment, what's happening is it's duplicating the payment in QuickBooks, and she's trying to understand what's going on there. So Celia, what it sounds like your issue is here is that your cleaners, they're just, excuse me, getting tongue-tied here. Your cleaners are going out there, they're not just finishing the job, they're finishing invoicing and paying the job. So when you look in Housecall Pro at the top there, you've got 5 different buttons: the schedule, the on my way, excuse me, 6, the schedule, the on my way, the start, the finish, the send invoice, and the paid button. We'll talk a little bit more about those 3 buttons next week because we are going to hit on what all 3 of those buttons do. But a payment will not be pushed into QuickBooks until that paid button is hit in Housecall Pro. So if they are hitting that paid button in Housecall Pro and they're saving a payment, they are recording a payment before it's actually paid. This is going to be screwing up who actually owes you in Housecall, along with who actually is paying you and when you're getting paid in QuickBooks. So it's also going to be screwing up your AR and your days to get paid report, because we always want to make sure that when you send the invoice, as soon as you receive payment, we report that so that we can figure out your average days to get paid. That's a very vital thing that Housecall and QuickBooks can provide to us. And if we're not using that, it's going to have you losing out on very important information there. So I would say the first thing there is to make sure that your cleaners, when they are done with the job in Housecall Pro, all they are doing is hitting the finish and potentially hitting the send invoice button. If they do not have a physical check in their hand, they do not mark it paid. Now, if they do have a physical check in their hand, yes, go ahead and mark it paid, because we want that payment to exist so that you can then go and create the bank deposit off of it. So hopefully that helps you. Again, I would tune in next week because we're going to go into a little bit more detail there.
It looks like you guys, I did want to mention, since you all are now promoted to panelists, if you prefer to just pop on real quick and verbally ask your question, that is cool. Pop on your video. Otherwise, the chat is great. Looks like we got one from John. How do tips get recorded?
Okay. John, that will be a future video. There's 2 kind of ways that we can do tips in Housecall Pro. if you are tipping from the tip screen in Housecall Pro, so you've run a credit card and you're tipping there, what it's going to do is it's going to push over a larger payment than what the invoice is for. And it's going to end up creating a credit for that customer in your QuickBooks. So if they tip you $20, it's going to show that that customer is overpaid by $20 in QuickBooks. So you have to go in and do a journal entry, and I'm working right now. Let me find, I did a YouTube video on this that I'm going to post in here for you, John. But you will need to go ahead and do a journal entry there to counteract that tip. If they are paying you and you know they're going to tip you beforehand, one of the best things you can do is to go ahead and just have a line item called tips in Housecall Pro, or a product and service called tips, because by having that product and service called tips, it's going to go ahead and make it a little bit easier to record everything, and you can have it set up to automatically go into a tip account in QuickBooks through your P&L statement. So it takes a little bit of the work off of you, but that's only if they know beforehand, you know beforehand that they're going to be tipping. Why is it not letting me see the chat area? Come here, chat.
Huh.
Stop the share and find, there's the chat.
There we go.
Okay. More questions. Now I can actually see the questions. That's awesome. Okay. Yes, Brandon, we will be, I do have some handouts and everything that we have, so we will make sure that we put that into the resources in the future. It's just going to be the presentation and then kind of some key talking points. I'm going to talk more than what it actually says here. But the talking points are just kind of a synopsis of what I'm talking about. How do tips get recorded? We did that. What is the name of the Facebook group? Lily, you want to handle that one?
Oh yeah. So I believe, was that Rosa that asked that?
Yes.
Yes. So we're just broadcasting live in our Housecall Pros Facebook group at the moment. So we don't have a special Facebook group for this series, but we will be casting live each week into the Facebook group as well as this Zoom.
Correct. Abby, to answer your question about the $0. Do you have a question?
It sounds like you're getting into your car.
Okay. Abby, to answer your question there about the $0 invoices from segments. So whenever you do a segment for multi-day jobs, they're going to be $0 invoices, hopefully. And if you are hitting finish on that multi-day job, which hopefully you are, that is going to push over that segment as an invoice. There really is no way to avoid that. But since it's $0, it's really not affecting anything in your AR. It automatically goes over as paid, and it's helping you to track, not just in Housecall Pro, but also in QuickBooks, any notes or anything that you make. So I always recommend on those segments to have a note section, both in Housecall Pro, but also make a line item for $0 just for notes and stuff so that it goes over to QuickBooks. One thing that is important here, and Lily might shoot me on this one, but it is the nice thing about QuickBooks is as you're doing everything in Housecall, it's pushing everything over there to QuickBooks. So if in the future you decide that Housecall Pro isn't for you, or you want to move to a different system, you have records of how many times you visited that house through those segments in QuickBooks. You've got any notes, any descriptions, any information that you put specifically on the invoice in QuickBooks so that it stays with you. It's not going with Housecall Pro, so that you have a backup of that data. That's one of the things that I really like there. So the $0 invoices really don't bother me because as a accountant and bookkeeper, they're not affecting your financials. All they're doing is they're just giving you extra invoices. So it's helping you to better see how many times you're servicing a client, because then we can go in and in QuickBooks, we can run a invoices by customer list or a number of invoices by customer. And we can see the average number of invoices you send a customer over a period of time and run comparisons. So that helps you to understand better what's going on there. John, we're making a second entry for each tip and putting John, I'm not exactly understanding your second question here.
Okay, so you answered the question. So like we were, you know, we get paid tip on credit card, and then it pushes over, and then there's like the extra money sitting there. And so what we were doing was basically creating another invoice using that same number, like 2,500, but we put a T in front of it just so it didn't misbalance or whatever.
Absolutely. And you can do that too. The way that Housecall Pro videos and stuff show you to do it, and the way that I show you to do it, is to do a journal entry. That way you don't have another invoice there, but doing a secondary invoice, as long as you put a T in front of it, you're good to go there. Just make sure that you are putting a T in front of it. Otherwise, QuickBooks is going to kick it out and say that's a duplicate invoice number and not allow you to use it. So Kimberly, as long as you are resyncing the Housecall Pro, if you're putting the tips in Housecall Pro, as long as you're resyncing there, then you're fine. If you're putting it into QuickBooks, what you're going to have happen there is you're going to have missing information in Housecall Pro from QuickBooks, but you can also do it there too and just add a tip line item in QuickBooks only. There's really no perfect solution here. There's several different solutions. One of my employees, Monica, right below you put the video that we've done so that you can use that there. But that is just a suggestion. You can use invoices, you can modify the current invoice. I'm a believer that there's not per se a right and wrong answer. There's always multiple answers, and we need to find what works best for you. If it doesn't work for you, find something else as long as it works.
And you all, if you're watching Kimberly's question, if you're watching on Facebook, Kimberly's question was, is it a problem if I have been adding a tip onto the invoice after the payments have been received with my tip line item? So, and I just shared if you're watching on Facebook, I just shared the video that Monica posted in our Zoom.
Perfect. Rosa, multi-day invoices. So you're talking about Rosa, you're talking about multi-day invoices with the -1 and -2. That's how it always happens with segments in Housecall Pro. They just add a dash after the invoice number. And you'd like to have the option to print them as a single invoice when you have different items to bill. So one thing that you can do there is you can actually in QuickBooks create a statement. This is another nice feature that QuickBooks offers that Housecall Pro doesn't offer. And you can create a statement specifically for that customer. And what it will do is it will list all of their open invoices, as long as there's a money amount there, along with what was done on those invoices, so that that single statement will show everything instead of having multiple different invoices that you have to send. So you're not doing one single invoice, you're just doing a statement. And what a statement does is it just creates one single invoice. Abby, is it possible to somehow consolidate what in QuickBooks Online?
It looks like she may be following up from her first one, her first question.
With the statements and everything, or multi-day. The only way to really consolidate it there is to delete everything, delete the invoices that you don't need. There is no merge or anything like that with the invoices, just because generally speaking, an invoice doesn't get merged. John, yes, there is. If you are using type of payment in Housecall Pro and you make sure that you select credit card or check or other or whatever you choose there, you will have a payment report in QuickBooks, and you can run that report, and then you can filter by payment type as cash, check, or other. And that's the easiest way to do it that I'm familiar with. I have in the past gone into the job screen in Housecall Pro, and we export the Excel document there, and then we do some data sorting there and combine to find the payment method. But in QuickBooks, it will actually allow you to run a specific report there.
Awesome. And James, you know, on Facebook, Celia, oh, cool. Yeah, on Facebook, Celia, she sent like a follow-up to hers. So her original question, you know, my issue with QuickBooks is that it reads the invoices as paid after a cleaner finished a job. When I need to collect payment, I need to delete the invoice showing as paid so I can open the invoice or open the payment option on the invoice. I think it is duplicated at the same time. So then her follow-up was, they do not have permission to receive payments in Housecall Pro still as not paid. She said her cleaners don't have permission for payments, so they do the normal on my way, start and finish. So they're not accepting, they're not the ones collecting the payment. That's what she's saying.
So Celia, this might be a little more complicated than just because we've got a lot of different things going on here. It could be what's going on here is a misunderstanding of how the payments are pushed over to QuickBooks and then what your next step is there. And that's going to be something we're covering in the next 2 videos. So one thing to keep in mind there is whenever you go through and receive a payment in Housecall Pro, that payment is going to automatically show up in QuickBooks and pay that invoice. You don't need to pay it again in QuickBooks because it's already paid. At that point, what you're wanting to do is you're not wanting to pay it, you're wanting to create a bank deposit. When the payments come over from Housecall Pro, they're going to go into undeposited funds so that it's a holding account. You will need to pull it out of that undeposited funds to move it by creating a bank deposit into your bank account when it goes in there. That is what is going to be going on there.
Awesome.
Okay. Video going over reconciling deposits on bank statements that are duplicate of HCP payments. Okay. Not a problem there. Brandon, what it sounds like is going on is you're probably using the bank feed in QuickBooks Online, and that will be a future video because that bank feed is a lovely PITA. For those of y'all that know what that is, it creates a lot of issues for people. And it does create a giant issue of creating duplicate payments, duplicate income, stuff like that, and ends up really increasing the amount of income that you've done. And by using that bank feed, whenever you have a payment that comes in, whenever you have a deposit on that bank feed, that should be matched to something in QuickBooks. Otherwise, if you're adding it to something in QuickBooks, what's going to happen is you are going to be recording the income from the invoice, and then you're going to be recording the income again from the bank feed. So instead of having $100,000 in income for the month, you're going to end up with $150,000, $200,000 in income. And so it's going to extremely inflate the amount of money that you have. This is something that I run into, I would say, on a weekly basis. I have consultations at least weekly on this issue. That's why it will be its own video, because there's a lot to discuss there. Okay.
All right.
Any other questions, guys, or are we ready to go ahead and close it all out?
Got Amanda there.
Yes, Amanda. We generally use ourselves either Receipt Bank or HubDoc. It depends on the client and what they need. HubDoc for smaller companies is great. Receipt Bank for larger companies. I'll shoot you an email after this, Amanda, and shoot you some information there, and we'll go from that route there. I think that's going to make it a lot easier for you there, is using HubDoc instead of keeping all that, because that allows you to keep digital receipts. I always recommend looking at Expensify, HubDoc, or Receipt Bank. That is a very, very useful tool because it keeps digital copies of all your receipts. And then you can throw away all those lovely paper copies that are cluttering up your file cabinet so that you don't hand your accountant at the end of the year a giant box full of receipts and they look at you cross-eyed and then say it'll be $1 million to file your taxes. I love as much digital and as little paperwork as possible, but Receipt Bank is very, very good. And yes, Elizabeth, 13 employees, Receipt Bank is generally going to be your better option. When we're dealing with more like, I'm talking about companies that are 5 to 10 employees, if that. So that's where HubDoc comes in a lot better there. So, okay, I am. Elizabeth, Elizabeth asked if there are arguments. There's always arguments about if you can actually safely discard paper, receipts and everything. Ultimately, talk with your bookkeeper or your accountant first. That's where I always say to start. In general, though, if you have a good program that backs up correctly, then you are fine. Digital copies are perfectly fine. Receipt Bank and HubDoc, the reason that I recommend them is they are secure 256-bit encrypted softwares. So that's the same security level that your banks use. So it's secure so that no one can get in there. They use multi-factor authentication, all that stuff, so that people can't get in there and just delete stuff on you. And the other thing is they have multiple backups of it. And the other thing is beyond that is used correctly. Receipt Bank and HubDoc will put a copy of that receipt in QuickBooks along with having it in Receipt Bank. So now you've got multiple copies in multiple places in Receipt Bank or HubDoc, and you have a copy in QuickBooks. That's the thing that I really like, is that copy is in QuickBooks, so that if you get audited and they want to know, hey, you had this expense listed here on this date, where's the receipt? You go to that in QuickBooks and the receipt is right there. You're not having to go into a file cabinet and pull your file cabinet out into a lovely disorganized chaos. I don't care how organized you are. You can't organize receipts. And then sort through 20 receipts for that week. So it's definitely, it's up to your accountant, as I always say. The old school guys, their answer is always going to be, do not throw it away. I am not old school. I'm very, very new school and very, very young. Yes, Abby, we will be doing a specific show just about projects in QuickBooks Online and how to use Housecall Pro with it. That's the job costing that I'm talking about, and we use it with a lot of clients. I've got about 25 clients that use projects and Housecall Pro with QuickBooks together, and there are a few things to watch out for there, but it's not anything majorly crazy. So guys, I know that we are approaching the top of the hour. So any other questions that y'all have, feel free to put them into Facebook or chat them in here. We'll take care of them next week. But if y'all want to reach out to me specifically, you're more than welcome to give us a call at this number, 229-584-8793. And Tanya will probably answer the call, and we'll be happy to get you scheduled for a little bit of time to talk with me or someone else on my staff. Or you can just email us directly at info@waterfordbusiness.com, or go to our website and fill out our contact us form. That's going to allow you to put in questions, and we can give you a call when we have availability. We try to get back in touch with clients as quickly as we can there. And that is all I have there. Do we have another question come in? It looks like, nope, Nathan was just saying it was helpful.
Yes, it was, James. This has been so awesome. I know we were expecting to hang on here for about 30 minutes, but you answered so many questions. So I'm sure everyone tuning in found this extremely valuable. And I'm so excited and grateful for you to be joining us for the Thursdays to come. For those of you that are joining through Zoom, I commented our upcoming schedule with the topics that we have in mind for those dates. Just know that they may change, but that's what we've got so far. We'll keep you updated. And then I also commented it in the thread if you're watching from Facebook. Stay tuned. I will probably send you all that are joining Zoom a recap email, so that way you guys have the Zoom link for next Thursday. And we'll kind of end the recording from this as well. And then just for everyone else, just stay tuned. I will be posting the Zoom link for next Thursday all over Facebook. So just be on the lookout for that. Feel free to email James or DM us on Facebook. Send us a message for that Zoom link and we'll get you hooked up.
Absolutely, guys. Email, Facebook, tag me in a post on Facebook. I'm constantly on there answering questions for you guys. And I look forward to sitting down and working with y'all over the next little bit. Lily, for the office hours, do we want to just do like another Facebook poll on that one?
Yeah. You know what, you all, we will do that. I will post that poll as soon as we hop off here. And those office hours will be, just like James said at the beginning, there'll be a time, kind of like what we just did this last 15, 20 minutes of just simply Q&A. Those will be, it's their own separate thing. Those will be on probably another day of the week. So just let us know what day and time works best for you. And
absolutely, guys. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day and enjoy, hopefully, the lovely weather or snow or whatever is going on by y'all.
Thank you, James. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. See ya.